Hello and welcome along once again to the Irish Rally podcast. We've had a monumental reaction to our special programme on Rory Gallagher last week, and once again we'd like to take the opportunity to thank the family and all our guests for contributing towards the programme. We did put up a donation link to the Irish Motor Neuron Disease Association, and that link is underneath the programme post if you would like to make a donation to Irish Motor Neuron Disease. From our point of view, we are at the latter stages of our offerings this season, and this is the penultimate episode with a special programme to air around the festive period. But more on that one later. On today's podcast, we will take a look back at the Killarney Historics Rally, while also reflecting on this year's Irish Forestry Championship. We've interviews with Patrick O'Brien, the 2022 Forestry Champion. That interview done before today's Billy Coleman Award announcement. And while we're on the topic of that, we want to say well done to Eamon Kelly, who is this year's Billy Coleman Award winner, seeing off competition there from Patrick O'Brien and from Kyle McBride. All three of those have serious futures ahead, so well done to all three. Just in terms of our lineup then, just continuing on with that, Tommy Commane, the Class 13 winning co-driver in the Forestry Championship, he's going to join us. He won, of course, alongside Hal Lewis, and we're going to give a full rundown on all the class winners in the Forestry Championship. We're going to begin the programme with a few clips courtesy of Mad for Tar Motorsport. That'll feature overall winner Johnny Greer and also Craig Breen, who, of course, was driving Frank Marr's Old Sierra on a very poignant day for the Marr family. Straight after that, we're going to hear from PRO of the Killarney Historics Rally, Ivan Hurley, who will give us all the class winners. We'll also chat to winning co-driver Niall Burns, he was alongside Johnny Greer, of course, and modified winner Kevin Eves. And once again, a big shout out to SVS Productions and to treerock.ie, who've been with us by our side for all of 2022. Hope you enjoy the programme.
Hi Kevin, thanks very much for having me on the podcast this evening. A fantastic event the weekend, and I must start by saying just a huge credit to all the organisers and everybody behind the scenes, from the front of the road to the back of the road to the arrowing and setup crews and the bail crews. Everybody worked in harmony, and it was such a successful event in the end. Everybody came home safe and sound, no stage cancelled. I think every stage ran bang on time as well, so it's just a huge credit to everybody in Killarney District Motor Club for running such a successful historic rally this year, and very much already looking forward to the return of the rally next year as well. But as I say, here to go through the various class winners, plenty of classes between the historic section and the modified section, so we'll get through these fairly quickly for you. Class 1 went to Kevin Flanagan and Mark Riley in their Austin Mini Cooper S. Class 2 went the way of Patsy McDonough and Lee Kavanagh in the Ford Escort Mark II. In Class 3 then, Tommy McDonough and Sean Hickey in their Ford Escort from County Clare took Class 3. Class 4 honours, that went to Noel O'Sullivan and Nicholas Burke, the only Kerry class winner, which goes to show the quality of rallying coming down now to Kerry and taking part in our events. So well done to Noel O'Sullivan and Nicholas Burke on taking Class 4 honours. Class 5 then went the way of Kevin O'Connor and Mike Breen in their Talbot Sunbeam, the all Limerick crew. Well done to them. Class 6, that went the way of Jason Black and Carl Egan, that in the Toyota Starlet rear-wheel drive. Class 7 then to one of the reserve cars, actually, car 160, to Daniel McKenna and Andrew Grennan. So well done to them for holding on to their entry and getting in fairly late into the rally and winning their class. So well done to them. Class K then, that went to Donna Kelly and Rory Kennedy. In Class D2, the winner was David O'Brien and Niall O'Brien from County Kilkenny. Fantastic livery on their Mark II Escort as well into the weekend. Class D3 then, that went the way of Alan Watkins and Owen McCarthy, the UK Cork combination. That was also a winner in Class D5, which saw the 2023 Irish Tarmac Historic winner Neil Williams and Anthony O'Sullivan take home top honours in D3 and valuable points early on in the championship. Class C2 then, that went the way of Ed Conlon and John Fogarty in the Hillman Avenger. In Class C4 then, that went to car number 40, Trevor Wilson and Paul Mulholland in the Porsche 911. Class C5, that went the way of Peadar Walsh and Grace Walsh from County Cork, car number 26. Well done to them. And Class B2 went the way of Joe White and Des Sherlock in the Morris Cooper S. Moving on then to Class B3, that went to number 73, Tom Slattery and Helen Slattery from County Limerick, while B4 went to Peter Neville and David Manlon in the Volvo 142 from County Galway. Class G1 then went to Tom Clark and Alistair White, the UK Cork combination coming strong in this one as well. Overall winner then, the modified, Kevin Eves and Chris Melly, of course, in the Toyota Corolla Twin Cam. In category 4B, that's historics from 1986 to 1990, that went to Liam Regan and Glenn Thomas. Category 3 from classic 1975 to 1981 to Colin McCourt and Liam Moynihan. Category 2 then, that's post-historic to Stanley Orr and Michael Gibson. The Category 1 historic up to 1967 went to Colin McDowell and Brian Pearce in their Austin Mini. The overall winners then of the historic rally, of course, taking the Morris Nagle Cup home was Jonathan Greer and Niall Burns, so congrats to them. Very sporting all weekend and deserved winners of this year's Morris Nagle Cup. The Noel O'Sullivan Cup went to Alan Ring and Adrian Deasy. Both the Cronin and O'Mahony Cups are going to Peadar Walsh and Grace Walsh. The Paddy Kieran Cup, that went to our modified winners Kevin Eves and Chris Melly. The Reardon Cup to Dennis Hickey and Owen O'Leary. The Andy Wilson to Colin McCourt and Liam Moynihan. Kinmare Cup to Brian Hickey and Mark Horgan. The Jimmy Devan for the best all-Kerry crew, that went the way of Fergus O'Mara and Mikey Galvin, so well done to them. The first Kerry men home and 5th overall for them as well. Mervyn Johnson Cup went to Colin McDowell and Brian Pearce. Park Lodge Perpetual to Harry Hunt and Steve McPhee. The John Moynihan to Kevin Eves and Chris Melly. The Sapphire Science Cup to Stanley Orr and Michael Gibson. And last but not least, the Kerry Vinted Inn Perpetual Cup to Colin McDowell and Brian Pearce. So that's it for the Rentokil Initial Killarney Historic Rally for 2022. Again, massive thanks to everybody who got the rally up and running. And again, a huge credit deserved to the organising committee for running it, of course. We'd be nowhere without our main sponsor, of course, Michael Mahoney, Mr. Motorsport in Kerry, as he's known. Huge thanks to him for being so generous in sponsorship for the event, and of course, multiple stage and service park sponsors as well, and everybody in the programme. Too many to mention on here, but huge thanks for all the financial support. Again, the rally is what it is because of fantastic financial backing here in Kerry, and we look forward to welcoming everyone back for the Rally of the Lakes, of course, on the Maybank holiday, and this time next year as well for the Rentokil Initial Killarney Historic Rally. But thank you very much for having me on.
Now on the Irish Rally podcast, I'm joined by Niall Burns, the man who swept Britain out in terms of silverware last year. He's back with us here again on the Irish Rally podcast, and he did a bit of harm in Killarney over the weekend alongside Johnny Greer. Now, Niall, you don't have to confirm or deny, but is Johnny absent due to an alcoholic beverage or two, perhaps?
Alcoholic beverage and speechless since he seemed to have. We put on the card for him as well, so that's got a lot to do with it too. But yeah, he's under the weather a bit at the moment, so he's been thrown under the bus now to do all this. So unfortunately, now you're stuck with me for this one.
PR extraordinaire, Niall. You were 100% last year. That's not a problem. We wish Johnny the best as well. Look, going into it Saturday, Niall, all the talk was about Mr. Green and his Sierra, but it was a Sierra that you were sitting in that turned a lot of heads throughout the day, and it's not often you see two crews tied twice. After stage 2, I think it was dead heat central. After stage 6, it was dead heat central. It was an amazing tussle. You must have really enjoyed it, did you?
Yeah, like in fairness, we were going down there really kind of no expectation. Like obviously Johnny's been there. It's his 4th attempt at the rally in the Sierra, and I think he was 5th in 2018 and the 2 DNFs in 19 and 21, if I'm correct. And they just put a lot of work into the car, and they just thought, right, look, we're going to give it a all this year. And for like the DGM lads, I have to give them all credit because the car ran faultlessly all day. It was really good, and I was so surprised by the car. And no, we just said, look, we'll take it from stage 1, see how we go. And I think there was 0.7 between us after 1. And then it was dead even after 2, and then it was just nip and tuck then for the rest of the day. And it was fantastic ride. And like to be competing that close to like WRC lads there, like Craig and Paul, it was terrific. Like, brilliant day.
And it's something I was actually going to remark upon. I know Johnny got hardship with the car, like early enough into last year. He retired from memory, I'm nearly certain anyway. And to actually see him have all right, go cut at it there now. Like, obviously, it showed what he was capable of doing in it, and how good the car actually is.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, he felt so comfortable in the car. We done a bit, like, Johnny actually just didn't want me to land down and sit in the car, so we went up and we done a brief test there about 2 weeks ago, and it was my first time sitting in it, and Johnny just felt so comfortable, and we were testing the stretch of road, and like, I was so surprised how well the car handled over bumps and everything else. And like, as I say again, it's a testament to the amount of work they put in, and they've really put a lot of effort in, because this has been a kind of passion project from Davey as well. They really wanted to get this car up to scratch and get it winning, and obviously the proof was in the pudding there at the weekend.
Mm-hmm. Talk to me about the day itself then, and like bartering times. You've kind of touched upon it briefly, but I mean, I get the feeling you're not, and weren't, and still aren't overly surprised that at the performance we're putting in, despite the caliber of opposition. You know what I mean? It came to be expected. There's an air of confidence about you. You know what I mean? What you were kind of, I suppose, what your intentions were throughout the day, and how confident you were. Like, you know what I mean? It didn't seem any great surprise to you guys, while it might have been to others, is what I'm trying to say,
I think Johnny is often underrated as a driver. Like, people forget how long Johnny's riding and the results he's had in his career and stuff like that. Like, if you get Johnny Greer in like a car that's set up and get him a good set of notes, Johnny will be quick. And everything just fell together that day. Like, obviously, I suppose, like, we were fortunate enough that we done Malls Gap and Ballochbeam the same direction in May, and I think we podium in the International of the Lakes in May as well. So we had them notes to our back. And we've done versions of the Kilgarvan stage, part of Shanra, even in May there. And Johnny stood at that direction a couple of years ago too. So that all fell in for bad. We just put a lot of prep in, and we were going down confident, and we done a good recce. And the two of us just said, look, this is feeling good. If this car holds up now, we should have a good go at it. And thankfully we did. And again, when you're racing against the likes of Craig and Paul, like, you have to be at your best. And we did put on a good show, and I think we surprised a lot of people, but ourselves, we knew we could give it a good cut, and thankfully we did.
In terms of the sportsmanship, right? You won't see better, and the saying, I suppose, some people believe in karma, and some people just say what goes around kind of comes around, and you know what I mean. You kept Craig in the event. Like, it was an incredible act of sportsmanship. You know what I mean, and I suppose when you look at it, then you go on and win. Like, it is just rewards for it. But will you talk me through the process of what that conversation was like, how you found out he was in bother, and the process of actually giving the part over and keeping him in the rally?
Well, just for the record, it wasn't a drive shaft we get him, because like a lot of people say it's one of your dodgy drive shafts to put in the rally, so it wasn't a drive shaft. It was a diff earlier in the day. Now, to be honest with you, I didn't really know much at the time. I know Craig came up to Johnny and asked him just before we went into service, do you have a part? And Johnny says, yeah, of course. But like, I think a lot of people forget, like, Johnny and Craig are rallying together for a lot of years too, and they're quite friendly as well. And of course, Craig would have hired a car off the EGM before the year in the Circuit of Ireland. So like, they know each other quite well. But again, it doesn't really matter. Like, if you have parts and you can help your competitor out, and especially boys you're racing against, you want the battles to continue on the stage. You want to be beating lads on stage as well. Like, you let the stage time talk to themselves. You don't want to see someone go for a mechanical issue if you can help them. So anytime I've been at rallies or any teams involved, that's always been the way. It's nothing special. Like, this is just something we do, and it's one of the things we love about the sport, is that camaraderie.
Mm-hmm. Can I just ask about your relationship with Johnny? Because from memory, I think you were kind of thrown into the deep end alongside him. Not that you would ever be thrown into the deep end. You're an experienced co-driver. Your record speaks for itself. But that call came late enough in the day for the Lakes, and you built up quite a good partnership since, obviously.
Yeah, I was actually Di Roberts was due to go to the event. Obviously, me and Di be quite good friends over the years, and Di just contacted me, said, "Look, you're free." And this year, I kind of took a step back at work and stuff like that. And it just so happened I wasn't doing much rallying, and me and Johnny went out. And obviously, I know Johnny for quite a few years. We would have been doing BRC events like from 2010 in different teams, and traveling over in boats, you talk back and forth and stuff. And so at least we knew each other. But it was quite what last minute you say. But Johnny's just very easy guy to get on with. And when you're sitting in with the driver Johnny's caliber, like, you never really have to worry too much. Like, as long as you can call the notes and get them out, you don't have to worry anything on Johnny's side. And again, like, DGM are such a professional team, everything's sorted, the car's there, and it's just a pleasure to work with them. And I think that was our 4th rally this year now, and everything seems to be working okay. Like, we done, I think, the Rally of the Lakes, the Ulster, the Maiden City stages, and now the Killarney there, obviously. So yeah, so far so good. Everything's working well between the two of us.
Mm-hmm. And look, I know you were saying you're mad work-wise and stuff. 2022 for you in comparison to 2021. Like, sometimes I find if you're doing something you love, nearly too much. Occasionally, you can start to get a little bit annoyed with it, right? How did you view this year in comparison to last year? If it was the case that you were kind of pulled and dragged a little bit more and you couldn't do maybe as much as you might have liked to, or was that the case?
You know, I suppose I'm always kind of blindsided by rallying too. Like, I'm like, got caught up. It's just rally, rally, rally. And I think I done like 17 weekends in a row back in 21. And, you know, like, obviously, you know, the home life takes a bit of a hit, work takes a hit. And I've always been that way, I suppose, since I started off rallying. Like, I think the most I done was in 2000 and maybe 16 or 17. I've done 32 rallies in 1 year. You know, I get really stuck into it. And I suppose the years are kind of going against me too. More priorities come in. So I had to say, right, you know, I just need to take the step back. I still ended up doing 12 events, but like, it was a lot less for me. But no, I think going forward next year now, you know, work's kind of leveled out a wee bit too. And obviously I got married there in July, so I had to keep it like a holidays free for that I'll have extra for next year. So hopefully now she's not listening right enough. No, just in case. But we'll hopefully get back into another program again next year and hopefully push for another championship again somewhere along the line, you know.
Yeah. Congratulations, by the way. Fair play. Went through a similar ordeal last year, and we're still here.
You know the pain of the year, so
it's fair hectic. Lad, in fairness, when you look at it objectively, you know, people say this, that, and the other. And in fairness, I can't speak for your missus, but mine took on a lot of that responsibility. I was only fussy about one thing, and that was the band, and everything else didn't really bother me a whole lot. But it's mad. You go through a period of being very, very busy, and then it kind of tapers off a bit. And in the couple of days beforehand, they're just fucking mental.
Yeah, it definitely was Ireland anyway, but I was just delighted to get away. And like, even there, getting across to New York and meeting up with Leon Jordan and stuff like that, he couldn't make the wedding, and even getting to chill out with them too, I suppose that was great as well. Like, and no, it was a fantastic day, and we're just still paying off for now, you know.
I know the crack. You have good taste in honeymoon. We took New York in as well as part of ours, so great minds think alike and all that. Look, that's the joys of it. A sweet enough way. That's you finished up, obviously, I'd say. Is it, or what's happening for the year?
Yeah, I'd say that's me for the year there now. There's no other events I planned now. It's just trying to get something sorted now for next year. Like, we're talking to a couple of lads about seeing what's going on, but it's always this time of year the boys start saying, "Oh, I might do this, might do that." And you're just kind of saying, right, well, what can we take on? But I definitely want to be back in the championship site there for next year and try and get back up to winning a few more events. That was my first Irish win. They heard the weekend, which was just, you know, surreal. Like, it felt so good to finally have an Irish win. And you know, when you get one, you're kind of like, you know, mind a few more. Can't let Keith Moriarty and Andy Hayes be winning all these rallies all the time. You know, we have to start trying to take a few off them. So.
Yeah. You do it the other way around. You start winning overseas and first, and then come back to try and win a few here. Other lads do it. I suppose you'd call it a more conventional way, the other way around. But just before we finish up tonight as well, just a shout out, because yourself and Rory Kennedy, Asher's probably going back maybe a month ago now, but he had a bit of a co-driving seminar, I think, over in Sligo somewhere, didn't he? Yeah.
We did, yeah. It was actually I done one for Connacht Mullet Club a couple of years ago, and just the fact that the club had no events on this year, and all credit to them. They want to keep the things going to keep people interested in the club, and I had to give Simon Love a lot of credit too. You know, he kind of put the thing together, and he asked me and Rory to do it, and you know, it was great. Like, you know, we had, I think, maybe 50 people there that night, and I think, as me and Rory said, like, it's always great to pass on like stuff we've learned over the years and kind of help the next couple of lads coming up, you know, and even current co-drivers giving bits and pieces of advice that we've had, because I think as co-drivers, like, you never stop learning. Like, even there now, like, following Paul there the weekend, I picked up a lot of tips as well. You know, just even seeing the way he does things and stuff. And if you can't learn from the professional like Paul, like, you know, you may as well give up, and you never stop. And hopefully now we're talking about maybe doing one in Donegal now again, maybe January time. Just to put a few details together for that. But no, we'll do a couple more as well. And again, it's something me and Rory both enjoy doing, and I think, you know, it's a good thing to pass on to other people too, you know.
Yeah, one important thing you did hit on there, Niall, I want to take you up on it, is the fact that even though you're vastly experienced yourself at this stage, you're still open to learning and are always looking to push on. Yeah. And Rory be of the same mindset, even though he's a good few years on ahead of like me and you. He's always looking out for things and always learning. That's his mentality, and in my opinion, that's what has made him so good over the years. And it's the signs of, you know, not just in rallying, but a top sports person in general, when they're open to, you know, new ideas, open to learn. And yes, you'll have your own way of doing things, but, you know, we're all creatures of habit, and we all look around. I think crows is the best way of putting it. I think someone put it that way before. They'll see something, they'll go pluck it and take it and make it their own, like. And that's probably the way it has to be, I suppose, isn't it?
Oh, it definitely does because like I'm quite fortunate too. I'd be quite friendly with a lot of experienced co-drivers. Like I'd be friendly enough with Paul. You know, I've asked pick Paul's brains over the years. Obviously, Rory's living beside me here now. Chatted with Rory, and I grew up like Paul Kiley was on hand, and a lot of other lads, and I've always picking their brains. And like even like Paddy Robinson, Dean O'Sullivan, like we're all quite friendly. We all run things past each other, and you always have to keep going because when you get mundane in this sport, like you know, that's when you start to slow down. The day you think you know everything, like you may as well just sit at home. You have to keep on top of your stuff. And as I always say, look, cars are getting quicker, you know, events are getting longer and stuff. So you have to be fit and you have to be on top of your game as regards to be sitting in them seats, especially in the way the R5 scene has gone. So definitely also to keep improving and learn as best you can because that's what's going to be the difference between you and the next guy, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, Niall, well done again to yourself and Johnny on the weekend. And look, have a nice Christmas, Happy New Year, and we look forward to chatting to you again there next year. All right.
So yeah, just thanks for having me on. Cheers, lad. Thank you.
Irish Rally Podcast. I'm joined by Kevin Eves, a regular visitor to the Irish Rally Podcast, this time in very good faith. Kev, a great weekend. You took the modified below in Killarney, hotly contested. You must have been beaming, man.
Yeah, no, it's like I've said it a couple of times. I suppose that it would be the biggest achievement we've had so far now. So I just really classed to do it. And the boys that was down there and just the weekend as a whole, it was savage.
Kev, this thing has taken off year on year. The popularity of it, like the machinery that's going down to it, the amount of people that's going down to it. I mean, we saw camper vans pulling up since Thursday afternoon, man. Like, this is crazy stuff.
Yeah, it was. Even through Ballochbeema, even about the gap, even getting access, like there was people down through the middle of the Ballochbeema. Like it was, I don't know what. I don't know how you even hike into it. Like it's just. It is mad, and I suppose just people camped out and people like even chatting ones in the town and young ones up Malls Gap from 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning and stuck there all day. You know, it's definitely some event, and it seems to be growing legs. Like even the type of machinery and the actual historic part of the thing, like it's standing clear. The stuff like you know in the last 5-6 years, some of the machinery coming out of it's savage.
Yeah, and look, I suppose just touching on that, when you see the machinery that is eligible now for historics, I mean, when I was growing up, I have to admit, and I would have said this before, I wasn't a big historics fan, but you're probably in the same mindset as me. When you see a legacy and stuff, you just think, well, two things. Number one, it's class to see them again. Number two, fuck me, we're getting old.
Yeah. No, I'd do the same thing. All them old Subarus and stuff from the legacies, they'd be... Their class, like, and it is cool. It's class to see them, even the next this Sierras and stuff there, all that stuff coming in. That's I suppose you're getting now, you start seeing the stuff you were watching when you were younger, and takes a bit of interest to the thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, and look, I suppose ambience is a big thing when it comes to rallying, and closing your eyes, you can tell what car it is. You know, if you're familiar with the sounds as such, and I suppose if you look at the first couple of cars on the road in the main field, they all have their own peculiar sounds, and then there's a peculiar sight, I suppose, of the flames coming out of Brain's Jug. Like, you know, it is really, really cool. And I suppose if you're looking at it objectively, it's probably the only event you're seeing that on a regular basis. I know you'll see a few legacies now in the historics, but all of it together under one umbrella, you know, it's the place to be, really, isn't it?
I would say it's really the only, like, do you say, true historic event? You know, I suppose the rest of the championship, like in Ireland, is it? I think it is, isn't it? The rest of them all runs under the international. You know,
that's it. Yeah. So it's on, like, yeah.
It kind of stands on its own, and I'd say it gets them a couple of guys overseas and stuff, and some of that. I was even chatting about. I think they were trying to get a quattro or something. Some of the guys in Scotland or something, the quattros chatting about trying to get over next year and stuff. So
yeah,
just cool now.
Yeah, and sure, look, we're seeing all kinds of machinery popping up. Like we're after seeing ladders in this country this year, and you know, it's just mad what we're seeing and the abundance of it and the variety of it, and it's grown from strength to strength. And I suppose we have a lot of talented people that are able to, I suppose, restore and upkeep these cars now. And maybe look, they're probably always there, but it just seems really prevalent at the moment that we're seeing this type of machinery, and this type of machinery looking immaculate as well. Like.
And I think it is something special to Irish motorsport, and I suppose it's something maybe in the grand scheme of things that's going on. I feel like I hope it stays that way, you know, like that Ireland seems to have always kind of held up that old school stuff, and even the modified categories like us, you know, you see some of that stuff going on. So you'd like to think Ireland keeps modified rallying is a big part of Irish rallying, and I suppose even that historic stuff and seeing all that there stuff, even some of the different cars in our categories, like it's class, like, so hopefully it stays that way.
Yeah, and look, I know we're after talking a good bit about the main category, but you know, I suppose we're nearly blue in the face this stage talking about the modifieds and how good it is, and it's not a bad thing to be talking about and being blue in the face about either. But when you look at what did arrive down there at the weekend and the level of competition, and you know, you had a few good twists up the gap down through the years and in recent years. But looking at the whole thing, it must be really, really pleasing when you see who you're up against and who you're up against regularly to actually have this as such a big thing for you, like.
Oh yeah. I know, like, hey, you get the likes of, like, even getting that cup, like even seeing, like, I think it was at Desi when I got the McCarthy Cup, even looking like, I think Desi's on it 3 or 4 times, you know, back in the noughties and stuff like that there, and you had Dan and Conor Murphy, and hey, even the likes of, like, hey, John O'Duggan put in a couple of savage times over the weekend, like, to kind of get it and get such a good day at it and have no bother and kind of race from the word go. It was class now. Yeah.
So I think from your point of view, you won 5 of the 7 stages. I think, was it stage 3 onwards? I'm up the correction on that now, but
I think so. Anyway, I definitely, Conor was fastest on the first one, and I think Desi took a second out of me on Ballacbeema the first run round. So I think after that now, Jono, I think now there's something telling me me and Jono could have matched the exact same time on maybe the last one or something like that there, but I would have good enough cup then. Like, that's what I mean. But it was, I suppose we finished with an okay lead, but it was still throughout the day, you know, it was 4 seconds here and 3 seconds there, you know, it was no big, it was kind of a kept on us the whole way through, you know, that kind of way.
Yeah, by no means a cakewalk. And I suppose another name that we should probably give a shout out to and the improvements he's made is Eddie Doherty. And he was quite impressive. I saw him down in the sprint below Fahim, but I think he had a third quickest on the first stage. You know, he's really come into his own, isn't he?
Yeah, like Eddie, that's what I was even saying actually on Kevin Glanning's thing. Like Eddie was in between me and Dan, and then Eddie had a couple of savage times during the day. Even in Wexford, I think Eddie had a lot of good times. So it's cool to see the likes of, you know, you have Eddie and then Conor Murphy, and you know, there's Jono there now. Probably seems to be settling in a wee bit better. You know, there's probably 4 or 5. Like, I'd say next year, and like even Richard Moffat, kind of, you know, he's been about for a long time, and like the pace he's starting to go at, like, and it's hard work, like, so there's probably 5 more 2-wheel drive men that's kind of really pulling to the top now this year, you know, that kind of way. So next year should be good crack.
Just in terms of Ballacbeema in particular, right, and the first thing that comes to mind is the tight and twisty sections and the weight of your car. And I know it's not just Ballacbeema that had those type of sections, but it's just one of those things that does come to mind and does kind of stand out. Like, is that something you're cognizant going into it? Like, did you find it any more difficult maybe than the other two?
Ballacbeema is always a wild funny one. Like, I think it's nearly a class stage, but it's always a stage where it's, I don't know what way to describe Ballacbeema. It's kind of it's a very hard stage if you get out of rhythm or you need a while good. I'd say I would always find some of that twistier stuff I struggle. I don't know if it's the nature of my style or what I'd be at. I don't know if I get out of shape a wee bit rasher on that tight and technical stuff or something, but it is, hey, it's a really tricky stage, but it's kind of all about nearly flow, because it's a lot of point and squirt between little tight corners and you're trying to stay neat and tidy and kind of keep moving fast, you know, so, but it is a brilliant stage, like.
So from your point of view anyway, you're heading into the festive period quite happy, and that's a nice way probably to round things off, is it?
It is. Hey, I don't think you could end the year's rallying any better now than a win in Killarney now. So it's class now. Hey, it is. Hey, that's what I'm saying. It is. It's just, I suppose it's our biggest achievement in rallying to date. We're at it 10 years, so it's a good thing.
Yeah. Will you be doing a bit to keep yourself taking over the next few weeks, Kev?
What, doing a wee bit of rallying?
No. You don't have to disclose this if you don't want to.
My big racy, you're catching me now for our chatting now. My big racy charity boxing now. Hey, we're doing that now over Christmas, so we have a bit of crack now. So, and my brother's getting married the week after it, so I need to get out of it clean, I think, some way.
That's it. Yeah. Well, look, that'll test your match fitness anyway. Look, just a quick one, Kev, before we finish up. Looking ahead to next year, what are you kind of envisaging for the season ahead? Is it? Can you see things even, I suppose, more progressive in terms of the level of competition? Can things get quicker again? Because I mean, at times this year the pace was frightening. Like, so what are you kind of looking at next year? And what do you kind of predict going into it?
Oh, hey, I'd say the pace will creeping away. Like, I'd say it's like anything, even ourselves from the summer. I suppose you're always developing wee bits in the car and seeing things and trying to make yourself that wee bit better. And I suppose even that, more so maybe in the international events, the likes of, say, us going to Killarney or Mulsgap, give them international events, even West Cork, they're familiar stages. I suppose the pace just keeps creeping away. But I suppose the more men that's there, the quicker it's going to get to kind of get to the top. So I think so, anyway.
Yeah. A word for Kevin Gallagher actually as well. I believe he is the man to go to now by when it comes to this engine crack. Maybe we give him a shout before we go.
Oh, I was for Kevin Corey. Literally, I was actually Killarney last year. I put in me KGP and Corey, the brother there. Actually, he's actually after going 2 litre in one of Kevin's engines there. So no, there's definitely no better man for the job.
Good stuff. Well, listen,
I have to get a sponsorship off him for this job now. Right enough.
Listen, Kev, thanks a million. You've been on a few times with us this year. We appreciate that, and best luck with the old fundraiser. Best luck with the wedding, and enjoy the festive period. And we'll chat to you next year. All right.
Cheers, Gavin.
Turning our attention to all things forestry and looking back on the season with Billy Coleman Award nominee Patrick O'Brien. Now, at the time of recording, I think we're close to a verdict on this Billy Coleman Award. Patrick, firstly, well done. Congratulations. You're the 2022 Forestry Champion. Also in the run for this award. And when this podcast goes out, we'll know a little bit more, says you. But how are we feeling? How are we feeling at the moment as we record?
I don't feel any different than any other day, to be honest. So we'll go tomorrow and see what happens. But hopefully it'll all work out and maybe third time lucky. Yeah,
you can't do a whole lot to change it now, I suppose, at this stage. That's probably the mindset. Like, yeah,
exactly. It's done now, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, nerve-wracking process going through the procedure, Paddy, or how would you feel?
Not really. Hey, it's just another day, really. Like, there's no point getting nervous about it, but it's not going to change anything. So no, it was pretty fine.
The whole thing now in general, I'm talking about, like, doesn't.
Yeah, even the interviews, like, it was pretty relaxed. Like, the judges were, I couldn't say a bad word about them. They were very, very polite and nice. So no, it was very, very easy process.
Good stuff. Good to know you're taking it all in your stride. I'm sure if we go back through all the other maybe nominees or award winners, they might have a slightly different take on that. But I suppose that's just the nature of who you are. Like, yeah,
no point panicking about it.
Yeah. Now look, as someone once said, you're like the good detective. You're never off duty, right? So you're currently sitting in a simulator as we do this podcast. You're spending a good bit of time in that, I'd imagine.
Yeah. So just out the shower, straight onto the simulator. It's I find it good for even I can change the notes on some of these games and stuff. So it keeps you sharp. Like, when it's too expensive to be in a car every single day. So this is the next best thing.
Talk to me about the season in general. Look, you set out your goal at the start of the year, Forestry Championship on the agenda. Take that box. But now that you have a little bit of time to look back on it, what's the standouts? Maybe just give us a bit of a recap on everything for us.
Yeah, exactly. We set out. We made it pretty clear we wanted to win the championship. I thought we had enough pace to do that, and it worked out. But probably the standout is coming against Keith Cronin and Craig Bringley. Two heroes to me. Craig, obviously with the WRC, and then watching Keith, what he done in the Evo was awesome. And then to get to race them guys, it was fantastic. And not alone race them, but pretty close to him, and even getting a stage or two on Keith was pretty cool. Like, so that's been the standout for me.
Yeah, Look, we know by your demeanour you take it all in your stride, and you strike me as the type of lad that was just chomping at the bit for that opportunity and just to see what you could do. Whereas other lads might not have that mindset either. They could be a little bit nervous about the whole thing. But when you're going in it from your point of view, even though you have a bit of a name behind you now at this stage, those guys are blockbuster stuff altogether. So you don't really have a whole lot to lose in those situations. And I'm sure that was the mindset in both those instances. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like people were saying, do you have any pressure going to that? But for me, there's nothing really to prove. Like it's more. I thought there'd be more pressure with Greg and Keith. They're quite big names. So if some idiot in a Skoda is close to them, that'd be maybe more so for them. But no, you don't get that opportunity too often to have a race against them guys. So take it while you can.
Mm-hmm. Earlier on in this podcast, we had a segment with Niall Burns, who obviously won the Historics alongside Johnny Greer down in Killarney last weekend. And he was saying, we touched on the topic of being open and learning and looking at guys and constantly looking for, I suppose, tips and pointers. Was there anything in those two events that you saw, maybe in Keith or in Craig, or anything to do with what they were doing that you were able to take and maybe, learn from and carry with you going forward?
I just think how relaxed both guys were. Like it was pretty common between the both of them. Like there was no getting hyped up even if there was something went wrong. The both guys just took it in their stride. So I try my hardest to be like that, and how professional the both guys were. Like the details that they go to is unbelievable. So with the academy, the MA Rally Academy, that's helped quite a lot this year as well. They have that foundation already in place, so yeah, probably that.
Yeah, and that's really going from strength to strength, Patrick. Like you've seen that firsthand. The amount of stuff that is laid on now and readily available. It's great to have that, I suppose, isn't it?
Exactly. It's one phone call away. Like in my younger days, I had the speed, but didn't get a package all together. So when you have someone that you can call, and if it's nutrition or even planning before the event, or just to even have a chat with Sean, it's so good to have that.
Outwardly, Patrick, right, if you're looking at this objectively, I'm thinking you probably don't need to call upon Alan Heary too much. Is that right or wrong to say?
You're probably true enough. Like I've never really bothered too much about pressure or anything like that. If anything, I kind of enjoy that. It's where I get the buzz out of the whole thing. But probably true enough. I don't probably ring Alan as much as I should, but maybe that's a good thing. Yeah.
And when we had him on the podcast, I mean, I thought he was fascinating. I'm really interested in that stuff. On you, maybe you're not quite in the same mold, right? But just in terms of how he looks at a situation. So people always say it's not the event, it's what you take from it, right? And he just really seems to be able to bring that home. I asked him the question in relation to Angela Cullen with Lewis Hamilton, who appeared to do absolutely everything. And on our sister podcast, the Irish F1 show, you had a pop at Angela discreetly every now and then for, having to carry literally everything. And Lewis there walking alongside her, right? But when we put that to Alan, he was like, well, my job, everything else, your job, rally. And that's how he looks at it. And I never ever thought of it from that point of view at all. Like,
yeah, to be fair, I'm probably guilty of that too. Like even like my brother Stephen, who sits me in the car, that kind of does everything for me. To be honest, he does all the entries and all that stuff. All I have to do is drive. So even with the guys that run the car as well, it's just jump in and drive. So I get it pretty easy. So I'm probably something like that too, to be honest.
Yeah, he enjoyed his year as well. Yeah.
What's that, sorry?
Stephen enjoyed the year.
Yeah. Stephen's a total professional. Like, probably a little bit more worried about things than I am, but I cannot say a bad word about Stephen. He puts so much effort into behind the scenes, and data from one rally to another, the previous years, the times that we've set on the stage, fastest times it's been on the stage. Like I can ask them what the time was from the previous year once we get to the end of a stage, and he knows straight away. So the effort he put in is unbelievable.
So he's a performance coach in yourself.
Exactly.
Good stuff. Well, look, I know we crossed paths a few times throughout the year, and you had an appearance or two on the podcast. But I'll go back to when yourself and Jordan were on. I thought that was a really good segment. We done that live that night. You mentioned subtly about little change, and he's like, "Oh, what are you changing, Patrick?" He write good tussles, didn't he? In fairness.
Yeah. Good. Jordan's a good guy. I've raced him since I was 11 years of age in the little courses, so we know each other pretty well. Like, so, no, he's a good guy, and I didn't have to change too much, to be fair.
And your escapade overseas, I know you were hampered in the end, but talk to us about that.
Yeah, well, to be honest, we were hampered from the word go. From stage one, we picked up a differential problem, but we had the parts to change it. But from the Friday night, you had to change the car from tarmac to gravel, and you only had 20 minutes to do so. So we done that instead of changing the gearbox, because it had to be done. You had to change the car to gravel. We thought we would limp through and get to service, but unfortunately that didn't happen. But the times were pretty good, in fairness, with the bother that we had.
Mm-hmm. And just looking ahead then to next year, what's on your agenda? What's in the pipeline?
For now, we're still setting some plans, but I think the first one is we're going to try to go to Galway, some tarmac next year as well.
Interesting. Yeah.
And possibly some European events as well. I'm really trying to push that, so hopefully that'll work out.
But listen, congratulations on a great year. The very best luck. As I said, when the podcast goes out, we'll know what the crack is. But you've been very good to us this year. You've come on with us a few times, and we appreciate that. So, a happy Christmas to you. A happy New Year. Well done again. Thanks for coming on with us, Paddy. All right.
Same to yourself. Yeah, thank you.
Staying with all things forestry, our good friend Mr. Tommy Commane is joining us for the first time in a forestry environment. But Tommy, Class 13 winning co-driver. We did try to get Hal Lewis on the line, albeit a little bit impromptu, as was this little interview, I might add. But congratulations, in between all the madness of the Historics on Tara this year, you had quite a fruitful year on the loose stuff as well.
Yes, we did. Thanks, Kevin. We had a great year, myself and Hal. Baptism of fire, I suppose we got together Christmas last year. What else do you do Christmas week when you're twiddling the thumbs around the house? You go off to Cork and you do a rally sprint in the forest. Something I hadn't been in years. And I'd never actually been in rear wheel drive before in the forest. So I said, it was always something I wanted to do, and the opportunity arose. And I'm thinking, Hal Lewis, that name is familiar to me. And I had to go back a long ways back to discover where I recognised it from. I used to sit up in the ditch and rallies around the country, and this fella was screaming around the place in a 6R4. So I know he could steer, I know he could drive. So went down and we did a recce. Actually, it's quite funny. Do a recce with Hal is above his house in Parteen, and you land on and the DVD is ready, and you spend about 3 hours talking about rallying. And you say, I'm the man that does the historic rallying, but that man is telling the stories from back in the day. He's an elder statesman of rallying, but sit down and watch the DVD, and it's a very interesting recce to do with him, because you're rallying with a man that rallied pre-pace notes, and he's a genius. Actually, it's a genius when he comes to doing recce in terms of his reading of the road when you're sitting in a sitting room and you're watching it, and it's from his experience. I think this year has been his 50th year in rallying. I'm not giving away his age now, but fellas are always saying to me around the paddock when they'd see him walk, Jesus, he's around a long time. What age is he? I said, I won't tell you what age he is, but I'll just tell you this much. When I go 3, 2, 1 on the line, he thinks he's 25, and he drives the car like he's 25. But we ended up in Boggara. We did a sprint in Boggara together. It was successful enough for him to say to me, would you come on for the year? And what a year, what a great year, because I had never committed to a championship in the forestry before. Went to Killarney the first round, and unfortunately mechanical trouble put us out early in the day, but I knew it was going to be a good year. I knew it was going to be quick. It was going to be on the door handles. Like I said, the guy doesn't know how to drive the Escort straight. Great car, great prepared car by Donal hitting the lads in Cork, and the boys were doing that came with us for the year. We had such a laugh, and we travelled the length and breadth of the country. I have to go back and check the results this evening. We did every round that ran. And I suppose a unique situation was I'd never rallied in Northern Ireland before until this year, and I was fortunate to do the Ulster, the Tarmac Championship, and then I went to what I can only describe as the Formula 1 of forestry rallying. We went to the Bushwhacker, and my God, did we have a great weekend up there as well. But yeah, it culminated in, with a couple of class wins, a couple of great battles with other lads that Hal has rallied with over the years, and heard a lot of good stories and banter and crack, and culminated us winning Class 13, which was great. And we had to go to the Bushwhacker because of another mechanical issue that we had on in Cork. And he just said to me, coming in the road section after retiring out of rally, we were on the tour up, he said, I think we'll have to go to the north. And I said, do you know what, Hal? I said, let's do it. And it turned out to be a great year, you know. And to win Class 13 was just the icing on the cake.
Great stuff. So I make it 6 decades that he's been competing in rallying, which is unreal. And again, I don't want to give away his age either.
Yeah.
I'm more so than you.
We always have the crack at sign on, you know, and I tell the story, and it's a little bit of a fib because it's not historically correct, but he was trying to contest and win the national championship the year I was born. It was 2 years prior to me being born. But he tells the story, and it's a pity he couldn't come on tonight now to tell it himself, but he finished up second overall navigator because one of his in-laws got married the weekend of a rally and he wasn't left go. So there was a switch. So his driver won, he finished second, and the other crew, I think, was navigator won or whatever. But back in the day, like he's very proud of telling the story that he was a co-driver. He shared the car with Ed Cole. You know, another man that would have been in the Historics the weekend in the Avenger. And literally they did it, you know, and he tells some beautiful stories about rallying around Ireland, particularly like the likes of the fuel shortage, you know, and the Circuit of Munster coming to the likes of Kerry and stuff and making agreements with garages about putting fuel into tanks. And it really is, you know, I probably should be writing it down, you know, because it'll form a book. But yeah, I know that Limerick, I think they're celebrating their 75th year coming up in 2023, and I firmly believe that they should just have a night with Hal Lewis and let him tell his stories.
Well, we're definitely up for a feature podcast there anyway. There was a great photo, Tommy. Was it himself and Danny Brady, youngest and oldest?
Yes, yeah,
wasn't the Toonie anyway, youngest and oldest.
Absolutely, and you know what, he was insistent on it himself. He said, like, he does realise, like, you know, that he's not going to be rallying forever, and he's intrigued by this whole J1000 setup. And you know, he said himself, if those he probably was rallying when he was that age too. He was just probably not telling people a different era. But he said to me on the day, he said, "It'd be lovely to meet the youngest competitor here." So fortunate enough, I think it was Ciara Griffin was involved in the organising of the event, and I just text. Funny enough, they don't, I stand corrected on this, but I don't believe they actually take the age of the competitor. They have to confirm that they're conforming with the age. But because of GDPR or whatever, they couldn't actually tell us his date of birth or however old he was. But I said, look, we'll track him down. And I think Daniel McKenna was sitting with him the same weekend and said, listen, they're looking at me as if I have two heads. I said, is there any chance the young fella come up and take a photograph of the old fella? And when you explained the difference, you know, and I think, I'll give away his age now, but to the age gap.
Substantial amount of years.
Yeah, a massive, a good number of years now, let's be honest about it. But it was a lovely picture to get. And I actually think that it'll be more beneficial to the young lad in years to come to think that, like, I put it this way to you, if I get to Hal's age and I'm still rallying, yes, you'll have to have some life if that's the case, because the man has some mileage put up. And he still smiles from ear to ear every time we go to do a rally, and he gets excited. Like, I know Christmas is coming, but I think he bypasses Christmas. He's already been on to me. Bogra was announced a week or two ago, and he straight away on the phone. Listen, are we going? Let's get ready for 2023. So yeah, I think if you look at the door of his rally car, it has a sticker on it, and it says there's two arrows. There's one pointing up to the driver, and there's one pointing down. And it says old dog. Is it old dog and New Road or something? I can't think of it. That's it. Yeah, the old dog. Yeah, that's him. But he thoroughly enjoys it, and I tell you, I feed off it because it's just a great weekend away when you go racing with him.
Just a word on the J1000s, because obviously it got very tight. There was some exceptional performances. Jack Brennan, Mossy Costello too stand out just to
absolutely
there, but I think Jack got the benefit of the doubt. They were in around the same on points, I think, and I think Jack got the benefit of the doubt there in the end. But they've both stepped up to higher class machinery. Jack's been overseas. Mossy was out last weekend, I think, down
That's right, yeah, he's out. Actually, I met him in the queue going into scrutiny, and I said, is that your dad's old car? And he said, no, that's my dad's car. I said, no, I said, that Mossy. I said, your name is on the door now. I said, that's your dad's old car. But yeah, the young fellas have definitely, I mean, to think back, if I had those opportunities starting out, It's fantastic, and even to see then obviously senior navigator sitting in with these lads, giving them, and you see the caliber of some of the drivers that are on the international and the national series sitting in with these lads and giving them the best advice in the world, and they're not slow. I mean, we watched a couple of times there during the year, and I suppose I pay close attention to Massey's times because he's local to me here at home and stuff. But no, there's a good future ahead of them lads, and it's good to see a category like that to give them an opportunity and a chance to get going.
Yeah, for sure.
No, same there. I won't be telling my young fellas about it. I wouldn't have
Well, look, there's something we're going to delve into in a while. I think Ballynahinch Motor Club are heavily involved in a micro challenge, for next year as well. And just the whole thing of affordable motorsport, it's never been as important as now when you see the rising cost of everything and trying to keep people involved. We know the work that the Academy are doing and all, Tom, but you want to make it as feasible and to encourage it as much as possible. And I think they're doing a pretty good job. Maybe, just maybe,
yeah,
like everything, you'll probably be looking at things that could be done slightly different. But I think, in fairness, they are doing their very best on all fronts to try and promote that.
Absolutely, and I tell you, I suppose go back in the day a number of years ago, even the local motor club here, Kerry Motor Club, would have ran an auto solar championship, which effectively was auto testing without the reverse, and that was what was putting a lot of lads, the skill that's attached to, and obviously the auto testing at the time, some of the cars that were exceptional built cars, but there was a financial side to it as well. But I remember the auto solar championship running here in Tralee, and literally you had lads pulling cars out of ditches, but it was back to the basic form of motorsport. It hasn't ran in a couple of years, but the one benefit out of it, aside from the driving aspect of it, was when you introduce categories like that, you introduce a new age, a new generation to the sport as well. And where I think the biggest loss in that was, we were trying to breed timekeepers, marshals, and if these young lads are getting involved in the sport and it's appealing to their generation or their age, their group, they might bring on a few friends that might be interested. They might have the finances to maybe go racing or whatever. But if they're there for a day's racing and they suddenly see, geez, I could give a helping hand here, and they are the future of the sport, and anything that you can do to flourish or anything you can do to build or sustain or build for the future, you have to go for it, really.
Mm-hmm. Just on your own point of view, Tom, the trick question has to come in here now. You done a lot on tar this year. You did a lot on loose. Have we a preference?
No. I enjoy both, and to a certain degree, there's a lot of crossover of competitors, but there's actually a lot of people that stick to both disciplines, and there's a great bunch of people involved on both sides. The one thing I would say about the forestry that I've experienced from years ago when I did a couple of rounds and now to do the championship is there's a real friendly camaraderie, and it's not knocking the tar side of it, but they're lads that look after each other. They'll give you a dig out, they'll give you a push, and it's just, I suppose it's a smaller community anyway. Obviously, reflected in, but the entries you can see the entries are getting bigger as well, and it's getting popular in the forestry. But you can't beat being sideways and you're pushing out 200 plus horsepower, in the forestry. But I have to say, I suppose I have to mind my lads in the historics too. Thoroughly enjoyed it again, and I mean, you look at Killarney the weekend, the caliber of the cars in Killarney were just phenomenal. So I'm not going to pick between the two. I enjoy both.
Well, look, you got through your fair share this year. I think minimum at least 12, I think, on record anyway.
Yeah, I think 12 or 14. Yeah, so a good year. Finished up obviously with class 13 in the forestry, and with Philip in the escort and the historics, we won out category 2. I've said to people, we did back to back. We won in 2019 and we won in 22. We'll forget about the 2 years of COVID in between. So yeah, we had a good year in category 2 as well. So yeah, so I saw the length and breadth of the country, so I won't complain.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Some lads, I know here from Karen never go say to Carlos, you're not going too bad, boss. I'm one of them. Come here next year then. So you've said things are in the pipeline. Just I'll leave you on this note now. What is the clear intentions? How we go? Is it purely enjoyment? And if we win something, we win something, or how's that shape up?
That's always the goal, is the enjoyment first and foremost. I suppose plans for next year have started already, but they haven't started out great. Defending an old category title, the Tarmac Championship hasn't gone great after the weekend.
Couple of stages, wasn't it?
2.5 stages, yeah, just short of the third one. But look, that's rallying. The car was straight. It was a mechanical issue, and the boys will get the engine out and we'll figure out what went wrong. But look, we're going to do select rounds at the tarmac. I think there's one or two we might be able to get to in 23, but I'll make up the numbers hopefully with plenty of rounds in the forestry, and we might do one or two in the national as well. I sat with a guy recently testing in Tina, one of the rally sprints, in an iconic replica car. Didn't go to plan that day. The plan was to do Banna, it didn't work out, but you might see us taking to the roads of Kerry maybe in April as well. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. Look, I enjoy my rallying, and if I didn't, I suppose you wouldn't be doing it at the end of the day.
That's the most important thing. Well, listen, Tommy, you've been very good to us this year on the podcast, and we thank you for that. A very happy Christmas, a prosperous new year, and thanks again for everything. All right,
Kevin, thanks for everything. A fair play to you with the podcast. Like I said to you, it's really opened up doors and avenues for us, and it's a good platform for competitors to find out what's going on and to air different things through the year. So I know you've been exceptional to the sport as well, and to wish you a happy Christmas and looking forward to 2023.
Thanks a million, Tom. Appreciate it. And to wrap things up, we're going to give a full rundown on all the class winners in this year's Irish Forestry Championship, starting with Class 2. Ryan Caldwell taking that. Some call him Caldwell, some call him Caldwell. This year you can call him the Class 2 champion in the National Forestry Championship. Class 4 going to PJ O'Connor. Class 5 to Patrick O'Brien. Class 7 Ray Breen. Class 9 Seamus McHugh. Class 10 Mike Garrahy. Class 11F going to Mike Feeney. Class 11R going to James Dunphy. The Class 12 honours went to Brian Little. Class 13, Hal Lewis. Class 14, John Gordon. Class 15, Mark Murphy. Class 16, Dylan Eves. Class 20, Derek Mackerel. And the J1000s, of course, going to Jack Brennan in a very closely fought battle with Mossy Costello. On the co-drivers side of things then, Class 2 honours going to Darren Curran. Class 4 to Denny Graney. Class 5, Stephen O'Brien. Class 7, Andy Hayes. Class 9, Brian Martin. Class 10, Irla McCarthy. Class 11F going to Ger Clancy. Class 11R going to Stephen Mackey. Class 12 going to Dave McSorley. Class 13, the aforementioned Tommy Commane. Class 14, Paul McPhillips. Class 15, Anthony O'Sullivan. Class 16, Shane Byrne. Class 20, Eamon Creedon. And J1000 then going to John McGrath. So that is the lie of the land in the 2022 Irish Forestry Championship. Well done indeed once more. So that's where we leave it on our penultimate episode of the season here on the Irish Rally Podcast. As we said, we will have another episode featuring in around the festive period and more details to be revealed on that very, very soon indeed. Thanks once again to our sponsors, Tree Rock and SVS Productions, who both have been with us throughout the 2022 season. If you are an Apple or a Spotify listener, please do give us the 5 stars. If you're knocking around there, give us a follow on them as well. A little review always helps. And if you do tune in on YouTube, if you hit that subscribe button and like the video, that's very much appreciated as well. So until next time, take care.